Good morning, children. So we'll be continuing from where we stopped last class. We were discussing about the two types of cells that constitute a pollen grain. Which are the two types of cells found in a pollen grain? Sania, vegetative cell and generative cell. What are the characteristic features of a vegetative cell? Steffi?
It is bigger, has abundant food reserve, and a large irregular nucleus.
Irregularly shaped nucleus, abundant food reserve, irregularly shaped nucleus, and larger in size. Then the next one, generative cell. Anna, what are the features of a generative cell? What is its shape?
It is spindle shaped with
Then
dense cytoplasm and
cytoplasm, nucleus.
nucleus.
And where do you find them?
It is small and floats in the cytoplasm of vegetative cell.
It is smaller in size when compared to vegetative cell, and you can see them or see the cell floating in the cytoplasm of vegetative cell. So we'll continue. So this we had completed. Then we learned about the two types of cells, vegetative and generative cell. And in over 60% of angiosperms, angiosperms are the flowering plants. In more than 60% of the angiosperms, pollen grains will be shed at the two-celled stage. Two-celled stage means they'll be having a vegetative cell and generative cell. So together, when only these two cells are present, you call it as a two-celled stage. So in majority, in more than 60% of the angiosperms, pollen grains will be shed at this particular stage. Children, what do pollen grains actually contain? What do they contain? Anybody? What is the purpose of this pollen grain germinating, forming a pollen tube? What is being transferred through the pollen tube? What do pollen grain contain? Let it be wrong.
Male gametes.
Male gametes. But here when we mentioned about vegetative and generative cell, we didn't mention about male gametes. So it will be formed later. In 60% of them, when the pollen grains are shed, when the anther dehisces and the pollen grains are released, they'll be in the two-celled stage. And these pollen will land on the stigma, and if compatible, stigma, if they are falling on a compatible or matching stigma, they'll germinate, forms the pollen tube. And as the pollen tube is growing towards the ovule, or as it is growing towards the female gamete, here division takes place, mitotic division. Generative cell will undergo mitotic division and they will form two male gametes. So they'll be forming two male gametes. In more than 60% of the angiosperms, pollen grains, when they are released, they will just have vegetative and generative cell. Male gametes are not formed. But as the pollen tube starts forming after germination of pollen grain, as it is moving towards the female gamete, that time the generative cell will undergo mitotic division. Mitotic division, not meiotic, mitotic division, and they will form two male gametes. Whereas, now here we said only about 60%. So in others, the generative cell divides mitotically and form two male gametes even before the pollen grains are released. So they will be shed at the three-celled stage. How three cells? vegetative cell plus 2 male gametes. Generative cell will change into 2 male gametes. So each male gamete is a single cell. They are unicellular structures. So 2 male gametes plus 1 vegetative cell, together 3 cell stage. All these are important. Application level questions can be asked. Once again, I will repeat, in majority of the flowering plants, or in more than 60% of the flowering plants, when the pollen grains are released, they will just have 2 cells, or else you can say pollen grains are released at the 2-celled stage. So when we say 2-celled stage, it includes vegetative cell and generative cell, but no male gametes. And in them, when are the male gametes formed? When the pollen lands on a suitable stigma, germinates, and forms a pollen tube. At that time, the generative cell will undergo mitotic division and forms 2 male gametes. Till then, when they are falling on the stigma, they'll just have 2 cells. Whereas the remaining types, in them, the anther, or when the pollen grains are released, when the anther breaks open and releases these pollen grains, they will be in the 3-celled stage. Why 3-celled stage? In them, the generative cell divides mitotically and forms 2 male gametes even before it is being released. Okay, by the time anther dehisces, this process will be completed and the pollen grains will be in the 3-celled stage. That will be, or this 3-cell pollen grains which are released at the 3-cell stage will be less when compared to those which are released at 2-celled stage. Majority will be released at the 2-cell stage, and some of them will be released in the 3-celled stage. Hope you don't have any doubts. Shall I proceed? Yes,
Yes,
Steffi?
ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So it can be asked about the 3-celled and 2-celled stage of pollen grains. You should be able to make out the differences between both. In majority of the angiosperms, pollen grains will be released at the 2-celled stage with vegetative and generative cell. In others, it will be released at the 3-celled stage, which means even before the anther dehisces and release the pollen grains, the generative cell will undergo mitotic division and will change into 2 male gametes. In both cases, whether it is 2-cell or 3-celled stage, it is the vegetative cell it is a generative cell which undergoes mitotic division and forms male gametes. So the only difference is, in one, it is taking place before the release of pollen grains. In the other one, only after the germination of the pollen grain, the process is happening. Now, the shed pollen grains, once the pollen grains are released, they have to land on the stigma. Only then, that process is known as, what do you call the process of pollen grains landing on the stigma?
Pollination.
Pollination. And the shed pollen grains should land on the stigma before they lose their viability. Viability means the ability to germinate or the ability to function properly. So before they get spoiled, before they fail to germinate, or before they lose their capacity to germinate, they should fall on the stigma. Otherwise, what happens is it will be of no use. And the period of viability is also different for different pollen grains. It is not the same. We cannot generalize that pollen grains will remain viable for these many days or these many hours, because it is different for different pollen grains. The viability period is different for different species of plants. But anyhow, they should reach the stigma before they lose their viability. The viability period is variable. It depends upon temperature and humidity. Two factors that decides the viability of pollen grains are temperature and humidity. So for the germination of pollen to form pollen tubes, some factors are essential. Temperature and humidity decides the viability of a pollen grain. And viability of pollen grains in certain cereals like rice, wheat, etc., it is just 30 minutes. So within the 30 minutes, it should land on the stigma. Otherwise, it won't be able to germinate and carry out pollination, or it cannot lead to, it cannot result in fertilization. So it is 30 minutes, just 30 minutes in the case of certain cereal crops, of cereal like rice, wheat, etc. Whereas in the members of leguminosae, leguminous plants, Rosaceae, Solanaceae, there the viability period can be extended up to months. So it can be from 30 minutes, a few hours, or even months. So it depends. The viability period of different pollen grains are different. Now, economic importance of pollen grains. Pollen grains, they have got so much of significance. So let's see how are they useful, what are the advantages, rather than helping in pollination, leading to fertilization, formation of seeds, etc. What are the other applications also we will see. These are rich in nutrients. Pollen grains, they are rich stores of nutrients. So tablets are made out of pollen and they can be used as pollen supplements. And pollen tablets and syrups are also available. So we can prepare, or pollen tablets and syrups are available. And why these are being used? Because they contain so much of nutrients. They are rich stores of nutrients. So it is very useful in increasing the performance of athletes. So in order to provide them vigor, vitality, or to increase their energy, so it's highly useful, not only in human beings and even in race horses also. These supplements can be provided. So pollen tablets and syrups, they are used for increasing the performance. And the reason for that is they contain nutrients. They are rich stores of nutrients. Then pollen grains as such you have learned, they can be preserved as fossils because of the hard outer layer which is made of sporopollenin. And at the same time, you can extend the period. We can store it for years in liquid nitrogen at a temperature of negative 196 degrees Celsius. So for later use, or if you need to use it after many years, you can definitely do that by storing them in liquid nitrogen at negative 196 degrees Celsius. And we can use these stored pollen grains as pollen banks. You might have heard about seed banks. And with the help of seed banks, so whenever you want to do some crop breeding, you want to improve the variety of crop, we can make use of the seeds. Similarly, when we have pollen banks, pollen contain male gametes, or they will lead to the formation of male gametes, which will result in fertilization. So if you can store them, later also we can make use of the gametes present and bring about fertilization. You can carry out fertilization just like in the case of seed. In seed banks, already seeds are being stored. But in pollen, we need to use these pollen grains for the formation of seeds. That is the difference. Okay. So I'll repeat once again. Pollen grains are rich stores of nutrients, and hence tablets and syrups made out of these pollen can be used as food supplements. It will help in increasing the performance of athletes and even race horses. And another advantage is that by storing these pollen grains in liquid nitrogen at negative 196 degrees Celsius, we can store it for many years. We can store it for many years. And just like seed banks, we can use them as pollen banks. And as and when we require, you can use it for crop breeding programs. And pollen grains at the same time. So we said about the different advantages. At the same time, you should know that some of the pollen grains, examples they have given, parthenium or carrot grass. The picture of parthenium is shown over there. Not only Parthenium, the pollen grains of different plants or different flowers can be allergic. Some people are allergic, like each one allergic reaction that differs from person to person. Some might be allergic to some food items, some might be allergic to dust, some might be allergic to certain insects, and some might be allergic to pollen grains. It depends. And different types of pollen grains, they can even cause allergic reaction. One such example for one such pollen grain is that of Parthenium or carrot grass plant. Okay. And Nia wanted to see the previous slide, so I'll show that slide once again. And I'll repeat, Nia, I'm just repeating that points once again as you wanted to see it once again. Pollen grains should land on the stigma before they lose their viability. Viability means ability to function properly, or in this case, ability to germinate. And the viability period varies from plant to plant. Different pollen grains have got different viability period depending upon the species. And two factors that decides its viability are temperature and humidity. And certain plants or certain, for example, cereals like rice, wheat, etc., the viability of the pollen grains is just 30 minutes. Within the 30 minutes, it should land on the stigma for fertilization to happen. Whereas in certain other plants, for example, those belonging to the families Leguminosae, Rosaceae, Solanaceae, there the viability period is for months. Is that okay, Nia?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now moving on to the next one. Quick recap, economic importance of pollen grains. Pollen grains, as I told, they are rich in nutrients. And pollen tablets and syrups can be used as food supplements for increasing the performance of athletes and race horses. Then we can store them in liquid nitrogen at negative 196 degrees Celsius. The advantage of storing them like this is that serve as pollen banks. And whenever we need to carry out fertilization, we can use the male gametes in these pollen grains. So, and these can be stored for many years. At the same time, certain pollen grains can cause allergic reactions in human beings. Not only in human beings, but we are more concerned with the allergic reactions in human beings. Okay, is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
And once seen minor forms, you can say just allergic reaction. Maybe they'll start sneezing repeatedly, some breathing difficulty, etc. But at the same time, in certain cases, it can lead to chronic respiratory disorders like asthma, bronchitis, etc. And just sometimes even we also, when you inhale some pollen dust or pollen grains, you can sneeze until it is expelled out from our body. But at the same time, it can lead to chronic respiratory, depending on the extent of allergic reactions, it can lead to chronic respiratory disorders like asthma and bronchitis. So before we proceed to gynecium, so with that we have completed andrecium. Just a minute. Okay, I just want to show you in a nutshell. So it's not about gynecium that we are going to see. Just a minute. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So we already learned about andrecium. So before we move on to gynecium, we'll see the different stages. We started with stamen, Stamen. Andrecium consists of a whorl of stamens, and in stamen, if there is a bilobed structure, you call it as anther. And inside the anther, we have micro. What do we have?
Microsporangium.
Microsporangium, and 4 are there. So microsporangium, and it is these microsporangia that forms. They develop into what, children? They develop into
Pollen grains.
pollen
Grains. Sacs. First.
sac. Only Nandana is there to answer. They will change into, or they will gradually develop into pollen sac. And at the center of that, or at the center of this microsporangium, or in the center, what do you find? A sporogenous tissue. So each sporogenous cell, tissue, it's a group of cell. So each sporogenous cell, you can call it as a potential pollen mother cell. They will undergo which division? Carry out?
Meiotic.
They will divide by meiotic division. Just a minute. They divide by meiosis. And they will form what? They will form,
Pollen grains.
what do you call it? Microspore tetrad. Microspore tetrad. So each sporogenous cell, or each cell in the sporogenous tissue is a potential pollen mother cell. They will divide by meiosis and form microspore tetrads. And these microspore tetrads will develop into what? Pollen grains. They develop into pollen grains, and pollen grains we can call as male gametophyte. Clear? So these are the different stages in the formation of pollen grain. So andrecium consists of a whorl of stamens, a layer of stamen, and stamen has got two parts, anther and filament. So inside the anther, inside each anther, we have 4 microsporangia at the 4 corners, and these microsporangia will gradually develop into pollen sac. At the center of each microsporangium, you have compactly arranged homogeneous cells, and we call this tissue, this group of cells, is sporogenous tissue. And each cell in the sporogenous tissue is a potential pollen mother cell. And they will carry out meiotic division, and they will form microspore tetrad, a cluster of 4 microspores, and they will gradually develop into pollen grains, and these pollen grains you can call as the male gametophyte. Okay? Is it clear, children? Now we'll proceed with gynoecium. So andrecium, I think you have understood, and those points we discussed towards the end, I want you to recollect. Give me the different advantages, or how are these pollen grains useful to us? Just summarize the points. Don't our first point.
They are rich in nutrients, so they can be used as food supplement.
Food supplements in the form of
Of
tablets and
tablets.
syrups. And they are used for increasing the performance in athletes and race horses. What is the second point we discussed? Gayatri, second point. How do we store them? And what is the advantage of storing them?
We can store them in liquid nitrogen in negative 196 degrees Celsius. By storing them like that, we can use them as
pollen
banks.
Later, you can use it for some crop breeding programs, like improving the variety of the crop. Okay, and you can raise desired varieties of crops if we have already these pollen grains of the desired plants in stock. Then, at the same time, we discussed about a disadvantage of these pollen grains. How do they affect us negatively? Lydia?
Pollen grains of some plants are allergic to some people, like carrot and
Carrot grass or
parsley.
parthenium, and it can lead to what? These allergic reactions can lead to, Lydia, only allergy,
Asthma
asthma and
bro.
bronchitis.
Right.
Okay, so these allergic reactions in the long run, they can lead to asthma or bronchitis. Both of them are two respiratory disorders. Now we are moving on to the female reproductive part. So andrecium we have completed. Now moving on to gynecium, and gynecium consists of carpel or pistil. Just like I said, andrecium consists of stamens, gynecium consists of pistil or carpel, both are same. And before I go into the details, andrecium, any doubt, children? Any part? Now you should not get confused between microspores, because again, rhyming words you are going to deal with. Microspores, microsporogenesis and all we completed. Now we are going to learn about megasporogenesis, megaspores, etc. So if you're thorough with the previous part only, you will be able to follow the next one. No doubts, no?
Ma'am, I have a doubt.
Yes.
You had explained pollen grains shed at the 2-cell stage. I understood the 3-cell stage. Can you explain the 2-cell stage again?
See, you know that each pollen grain, they have these pollen grains are having two cells, vegetative cell and generative cell. So the features of the vegetative and generative cell also we had discussed. I think no doubts about that. So in more than 60% of the angiosperms, when the pollen grains are released, they will just have vegetative and generative cells. Male gametes are not formed. Okay, and these pollen grains, after landing on a compatible stigma, they'll germinate. They'll germinate and form a pollen tube. And as the pollen tube is growing towards the female gamete, or to the ovule to enter the, or to fuse with the female gamete, then the division takes place. Then at that time, the generative cell will undergo mitotic division and forms two male gametes. Till then, till pollination has taken place, it will be in the two-celled stage. Male gametes are not formed before. Okay, and once the pollen germinates and the pollen tube starts growing towards the ovule, at that time, the generative cell will undergo mitotic division to form two male gametes. Whereas in the other 40, even before the anther dies to release the pollen grains, the generative cell has already undergone division to form two male gametes. So it will be released at the 3-cell stage. The only difference is that in 3-cell stage, the generative cell divides and forms two male gametes even before it is released from the anther. But in 2-cell stage, when it is released from the anther, it will just have two cells, vegetative cell and generative cell. This generative cell divides and forms male gametes during the time of pollen tube formation. Okay, Nandana?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So we are moving on to gynecium. Majority of the points, you have learned it in lower classes. The three main parts. Can you tell me which are the three main parts of pistil or carpel? Punya?
Sigma, style, and ovary.
Stigma, style, and ovary. These are the three parts of pistil. So as I told, gynecium is the female reproductive part of the flower. It consists of pistil or carpel. Both are same. Sometimes it will have just a single pistil. Only one pistil. Then you call it as monocarpellary. One pistil or carpel, then it is monocarpellary. But at the same time, they can have more than, or there can be more than one pistil or carpel, then you call it as multicarpellary. Single carpel, monocarpellary. Many carpels or pistils, multicarpellary. So first one, what you see is hibiscus. Hibiscus is an example for monocarpellary pistil, just one pistil. Whereas in the second B and C, you can find multicarpellary pistils. Or you can say multicarpellary gynoecium. Let's see what is the difference. So here you can see so many carpels. Here also so many carpels are present, but there is a difference between B and C. Even though both of them are having many carpels, in the first one, as you see, these carpels are fused together. These carpels are fused together. So you call it as a syncarpous pistil. Whereas in the second figure, you can see individual carpels. So many carpels you will find. Many carpels are there. At the same time, they are not fused together. They are free. So you call it as apocarpous pistil. I'll repeat once again. Gynoecium represents the female reproductive part of a flower. It consists of pistil or carpel. Sometimes the flower will have a single carpel or pistil, then you call it as monocarpellary. Example, hibiscus. And at the same time, there can be many carpels also. When many carpels are there, you call that condition as, or you call such a gynoecium as multicarpellary. And multicarpellary can be of two types, syncarpous or apocarpous. In syncarpous, these different carpels are fused together. Example, papaver. Papaver somniferum you will learn. Poppy plant. So there, the carpels are fused together. Many carpels are there, but they are fused together. So you call it a syngamy you have learned. Fusion of gametes, syngamy resulting in, or fertilization, we call it a syngamy because male and female gametes are fusing together. So remember that something is getting fused in syngamy. So here, syncarpous, carpels are fused together. And apocarpous, many carpels are there, but these carpels are not fused together. They are free and you can find it in Michaelia. It is not Michaelia, and I think American pronunciation is Michaelia, but Michaelia chambaga. So from that, you might have understood which flower is that. Can anybody say the normal chambagam? Michaelia chambaga is our chambagam. White color and yellow color also you have seen. Are you familiar, children? Chambagam with a very good fragrance. Yes? Okay. So example for syncarpous pistil is papaver, and apocarpous gynoecium or pistil example is Michaelia chambaga or simply Michaelia. And these are the examples. Examples also you should know. And the examples are given only in the figure. I think in the theory part it is not explained. But as I told you, all the footnotes of the diagrams you should be thorough with. I have given the same diagram which is there in your textbook. So hibiscus is example for monocarpellary. Just a minute. Okay, hope you have understood. Gynoecium, it's a female reproductive part. It can have a single pistil or many pistils, monocarpellary or multicarpellary. And in multicarpellary condition, the pistils may be either fused or free. When they are fused together, syncarpus. When they are free, apocarpus. Example for monocarpellary pistil, hibiscus. Then multicarpellary syncarpus, papaver, and micaelia for multicarpellary apocarpus. Okay, where the carpels or pistils are free. Now, each pistil, if you take a single pistil, you will find that it consists of different parts. Stigma, style, ovary. Stigma, style, and ovary. And stigma, see here what is shown. This one is that of the hibiscus. Hibiscus flower. And in hibiscus flower, you can find the stigma is branched. You can find a branched stigma. Either it can be branched or it can be unbranched also. It depends on the flower. So different flowers have different type of stigma, either branched or unbranched, you can find them. So stigma, whatever be the condition, whether it is branched or unbranched, it's a landing platform for pollen grains. Pollen grains will land on the stigma. So you have already learned pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma. So stigma serves as a landing platform for the pollen grains. Then comes style. Style is the elongated part. The elongated part beneath the stigma. So stigma is continued as an elongated slender part. You call it as style. Or you can say stigma is connected to ovary with the help of style. Style is a slender, elongated part following stigma. So after stigma, it is continued as style. Then the basal bulged part that you call as ovary or a flask shape or a bulged or enlarged portion, swollen portion you can find towards the end and you call it as ovary. Stigma, style, ovary. These are the three main parts of pistil. And stigma, it is a landing platform for pollen grains. Then it is continued as a slender, elongated part. You call it as style. And at the basal region or at the end, you can find a swollen portion. And the swollen portion is known as ovary. So we learn the details in the next period. So hope you have understood. Gynoecium consists of pistil. Each pistil is having three main parts: stigma, style, and ovary. So we'll be continuing next period. If you have any doubts, you may clarify in the next period. Okay, children. So we'll wind up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.